Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are cracking open a really fascinating mystery. How do we actually measure learning on a global scale? You see, we've got tons of research from all over the world. But what if the very words we use, words like effort, are getting completely lost in translation?
I mean, really think about that for a second. When you say you're trying hard, does that spark the exact same idea for someone in Berlin or Beijing or Bogota? Probably not. And if we can't get on the same page with that, how can we ever hope to compare what works in learning from one country to the next? It's a huge problem. And this problem actually has a name. It's called the monolingual trap. You see, most educational research happens in its own little bubble, perfectly tuned to one language, one culture. Now, that's great for getting the little details right, but it makes it almost impossible to connect the dots, spot global trends, and build theories that work for everyone. And this isn't just some abstract academic idea. This quote from the research paper just hits it home perfectly. Giving your heart and soul in Chinese, well, that feels totally different from investing mental effort in English, right? One is this beautiful, poetic, all-in kind of feeling. The other is very cognitive, very precise. We're not just comparing apples and oranges, we're comparing apples and, well, entire souls. So to get out of this trap and build that universal translator, the researchers knew they couldn't just translate words. No, they had to go deeper. They had to define the core concepts, the two fundamental forces that are at play anytime any of us tries to learn anything. And here it is. This slide right here is the key that unlocks the whole thing. On one side, you've got mental effort. Think of this as active, intentional, something you choose to do. It's the energy you invest. But on the other side, you have mental load. That's passive. It's imposed on you by the task itself. It's the weight that you feel. Getting this distinction is, well, it's everything. Okay, so let's dig into mental effort. This is your deliberate choice to lean in and engage your brain. It's the focus you bring, the strategies you try out. When you're fired up and really trying to master something, that's you investing mental effort. It's you consciously pushing down on the cognitive gas pedal. Now, mental load, that's completely different. That's what the task and the environment throw at you. And it's not just about how hard the material is. It could be confusing instructions, a noisy coffee shop, or even just that nagging worry in the back of your mind. So if effort is the gas pedal, the load is the steepness of the hill you're trying to climb. It's there whether you floor it or not. So once the researchers nailed down that crucial difference, they faced this massive new challenge. How on earth do you build one single tool that can measure both of those things and do it accurately across totally different cultures and languages? That was the next mountain to climb. You know, what they were really after was a kind of Rosetta Stone for learning. One universal scale that could reliably tell the difference between pushing the pedal and feeling the weight of the hill, no matter where in the world you were. And they called it the Mental Effort and Load Translingual Scale, or MEL-TS for short. And the way they built it was just brilliant. It was a two-step process. First, they went deep. They sat down and did these really detailed interviews with people who were fluent in 6 different languages. They wanted to really get the feel, the cultural texture of these ideas. Only after that did they move on to the big, numbers-driven experiments to prove that their new scale could hold up under pressure. And you can see the result right here. This is that universal translator in action. Just look at how the core idea of investing effort is captured. It's not a clumsy word-for-word translation. No, it's about capturing the concept, the intent, in a way that feels completely natural to a native speaker of English or German or Mandarin. Okay, so you've built this shiny new tool. But that's not enough, right? This is science. You have to prove it actually works. So the researchers designed this series of really clever experiments to see if the melts could actually pick up on real changes in effort and load out in the wild. All right, test number 1, complexity. The logic here is pretty straightforward. If you give someone a much harder math problem, the mental load they feel, that steepness of the hill, should go up. Simple as that. Their effort might go up too, sure, but the load is what's being directly changed here. And yep, the results were crystal clear. No matter what language they were speaking, when the task got more complex, the reported mental load shot right up. The scale was working. Test 1 passed with flying colors. So for the next test, they looked at distractions. Researchers have this great name for them: seductive details. Think of a fun but totally irrelevant video playing next to what you're trying to read. The theory? These things don't make the task itself any harder, but they add to your mental load, because your brain has to actively work to ignore them. And what's incredible is the scale was sensitive enough to detect that extra cognitive cost. Even though the actual task was identical, people consistently rated their mental load as higher when those distracting little videos were playing. The scale wasn't just measuring the task, it was measuring the noise, too. And that brings us to the final boss, the ultimate test. Could the scale actually measure a change in deliberate, willful mental effort? To test this, the researchers set up a motivating scenario. They gave people a story, a reason to care, and even a cash bonus for getting a tough problem right. They basically had to find a way to make people want to slam on that gas pedal. And boom, that was the final piece of the puzzle. When people were given a hard task and a good reason to try, the scale picked up a huge jump in their invested mental effort. This proved it. The scale could tell the difference between the difficulty of the task and the will of the learner to take it on. So let's step back. We have a scale. It works. It can tell the difference between the push of effort and the weight of load, and it can do it across cultures. Okay, but why does this actually matter? What does this change for us for learning in general?
Well, for the very first time, this gives scientists all over the world a common language. They can finally compare a study on learning from France with one from China and be confident that they're actually measuring the same things. This is how you go from a bunch of isolated findings to a real global science of how we learn.
And the real-world impact here is huge. Think about teachers. They can now design better lessons by asking, is this activity increasing good, productive effort, or am I just piling on useless load? And for us as learners, this is like a superpower. We can start to diagnose our own struggles. Am I finding this hard because the material itself is super complex, a high load problem? Or is it because I haven't really put in the effort yet? The answers to those two questions lead to completely different solutions.
And that right there is the big takeaway. This isn't just for scientists in a lab. It's a powerful tool for self-awareness for every single one of us. So the next time you feel stuck learning something new, just stop and ask yourself that question. Is the hill just too steep right now? Or do I just need to press the pedal a little harder?